Meeting on July 11th, 2023. It's 7:01. Ms. Jones, if you will call the roll, please.
Miss Williams? Present. Mr. Magner?
Here.
Mr. Callie?
Here.
Mr. Butler?
Present.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. McDonald?
Present.
Miss Schulist?
Here.
Miss Sinyard?
Present.
Miss Schilling?
I'll stand for the opening prayer and pledge. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather here today. Be with us as we consider what's before us and guide us to sound decisions through constructive discussion and debate. Give us patience and understanding throughout the process. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to approval of the agenda.
Second. I move to approve the
I heard
agenda.
you say move, so.
Yeah, no.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
go.
There you go.
Callie Johnson.
Mr. Callie?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Williams? Mr. Magner?
Aye.
Mr. Butler?
Aye.
Miss Schulist?
Aye.
Miss Sinyard?
Aye.
Miss Schilling? Mr. McDonald?
Aye. Do we have any citizens' comments this evening?
None tonight.
None tonight. Move to the approval of the minutes from the June 13th, 2023 regular meeting.
I move to accept the minutes as following for the June 13th, 2003 meeting.
Second.
Williams Johnson.
Miss Williams? Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Magner?
Aye.
Mr. Callie?
Aye.
Mr. Butler?
Aye.
Miss Schulist?
Aye.
Miss Sinyard?
Aye.
Miss Schilling?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye. Move to new business. Item 1, PC Resolution PC 25-23, Final Plat, Cumberland Estates, Phase 6, 23 lots on 5.48 acres, map 047, parcel 066.04, current zoning R20, RPUD, property owner, Cumberland Estates LLC. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve PC 2523.
Second.
Callie Johnson, and we'll go to staff for comment.
To the staff report for PC 25-23. And again, this is for Cumberland Estates Phase 6. It is a final plat. The applicant is Eric Olson. Initial submittal was on 5/29/23. Final submittal was the same day, 5/29/23. It's tax map 47, parcel 66.04. Mr. Eric Olson has submitted to the City of Fairview a request for final plat approval for the Cumberland Estates Phase 6 project. This development contains 5.48 acres. It is zoned R20 RPUD and has 23 proposed single-family lots and right-of-way dedication. The construction plans were approved by the Planning Commission. Again, the project is located on tax map 47, parcel 66.04. Regards to letter of intent, quote, "We are submitting the final plat for Phase 6 of the Cumberland Estates development to seek approval of 23 single-family lots and to dedicate right-of-way," end quote. The conditions of approval included in Planning Commission Resolution PC 2523 for Cumberland Estates Phase 6 final plat project are as follows. 1, prior to signing the final plat, developer shall provide a performance bond in the amount set by the site development agreement. Condition of approval number 2, prior to releasing the final plat, as-built surveys and certifications will be required for detention ponds, public storm infrastructure, and cut fill on lots. Condition approval number 3, approval of the final plat shall be valid for filing for 1 year from the date of Planning Commission approval. Any modification to the approved plat shall be submitted to the city for review and may result in Planning Commission reconsideration. And that is the end of the conditions of approval, as well as the staff report for this project.
Thank you. Is there a representative for the applicant here that would like to join?
I'm Todd Olson with Anderson Delkeps, here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. And we will open that up to the board. Go ahead, Mr. Maggie.
Sorry, thank you. For the record, I am a resident of Cumberland Estates, but that has no bearing on my opinions tonight. I just have one question, though, if you don't mind, please. According to Section 10, the retaining ponds required to have landscape buffers, and I didn't see landscaping around the Cumberland Drive retention pond.
It's on the approved landscape plans. It might still be in, it might still be in the process. I don't know how it's been finalized or when the landscaping is going to be going in. If it's still going to be knocked out with the pond still being finalized through final development and converted from sediment pond to detention pond, they kind of hold off on that till then.
Okay, because I noticed there was just two sections, by the way. One is the pond itself requires the buffer, as well as any visibility of rear lots from the public right-of-way requires a landscape buffer as well. So I would just want to add, at some point during our discussion, an amendment to make sure that that is included in the final landscape plan.
Staff, would you have anything to add to that concern that Commissioner Magner has?
So the next item on the agenda is Phase 7, and that phase is the one that actually backs up to the detention pond.
Okay.
So you're correct about your comment, but I think it's maybe more applies to the next item on the agenda.
And you're correct, I didn't know, but
Okay.
I think this one also contributes to that pond.
It may. I have not looked at the construction plans, so
Yeah.
it may actually connect in the actual stormwater infrastructure. But as far as the pond itself is
Technically
within.
speaking,
yeah,
correct.
The actual development of the pond and location is within Phase 7. So the landscape, I think, plan would be more focused on Phase 7 itself.
Sounds good. If that's the case, I can retract my comments for this phase, and we'll bring it up on the next. Thank you for that.
Well, I do, with that, if Phase 6 is feeding into the detention pond, shouldn't it be shown on because if we weren't approving Phase 7, then we wouldn't see it at all. Do you know what I mean?
You're correct. It is stated in the staff report that the construction plans themselves have already been approved for the entire development. And so at this point in time, the final plat itself is looking at just the development of the actual lots in Phase 6. So I don't know. I have not looked at the construction plans, and so I'm not sure what all areas will drain to that particular detention pond. I'm sure there are other phases that may actually drain into that as well. I understand what you're saying as far as stormwater draining into that pond, but as far as it actually being created and platted, it's actually platted as part of Phase 7. So I would say any comment on that would be a little more appropriate for that particular final plat, and that may be something that's shown on the construction plans, on the landscaping plan. Again, I have not been able to look at those before the meeting today, or this evening.
Any other questions from the board?
Been away for so long, I apologize for how I do this. Just a hypothetical question. I at one time considered the Cumberland Estates as a place to live before I decided to, in my current location. But how do we determine the size and width of the streets, particularly as it relates to emergency vehicles? Because I noticed that area is pretty tight. Do we allow our fire department to drive through that area before you make a decision? Do they provide feedback to you guys before a decision is made?
That's correct. So any kind of street width and right-of-way widths are going to be determined by our subdivision regulations. So those are going to be standard widths and standard right-of-way widths. And any plans that are received by the city will also be sent out to all the city departments for them to review, including emergency services. And so if there's any concerns in terms of a narrowness of a street or just a narrowness of a turn, and it would present some issues for emergency vehicles, that would be, they would have the opportunity to comment on that, and then that would be sent on to the developer and their engineers for them to be able to make any corrections that might be noted by any of the emergency services.
Do you know if any comments were received?
That I'm unaware of. We have not been a part of the review of this development, but as again stated, the construction plans have been approved by the Planning Commission, so I don't believe those would have been brought to you all for consideration if they were not meeting all the comments for emergency services and other departments as well. So.
I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just for the record, prior to construction plans being approved, there's, all the department heads sign off on, they review them, and fire chief reviews those, they go through all of that. So they have direct approval process, or involved in the approval process. Any other questions? Ms. Jones, call the roll, please.
Mr. Calley,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Ms. Senyard,
Aye.
Ms. Schilling, Mr. McDonald,
Aye. Resolution PC 25-23 passes 7-0, or 9-0, I'm sorry. Moving on to item number 2, PC Resolution PC 26-23, Final Plat, Cumberland Estates Phase 7, 32 lots on 9.34 acres, map 047, parcel 066.04, current zoning R20 RPUD, property owner Cumberland Estates LLC.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Johnson, Calley. And then we will let staff take over.
The staff report for PC Resolution 26-23. The project is Cumberland Estates Phase 7. Application type is final plat. The applicant is Eric Olson. Initial submittal date's 5/29/23. Final submittal date was 6/7/2023. Again, tax map number 47, parcel 66.04. Mr. Eric Olson has submitted to the City of Fairview a request for final plat approval for the Cumberland Estates Phase 7 project. This development contains 9.34 acres, is zoned R20 RPUD, and has 32 proposed single-family lots and right-of-way dedication. The construction plans were approved by the Planning Commission. This project is located on tax map 47, parcel 66.04. The letter of intent is stated as, quote, "We are submitting the final plat for Phase 7 of the Cumberland Estates development to seek approval of 32 single-family lots and to dedicate right-of-way," end quote. The condition of approvals included in the Planning Commission Resolution PC 26-23 for Cumberland Estates Phase 7 final plat project are as follows. Condition of approval number 1, prior to signing the final plat, developer shall provide a performance bond in the amount set by the site development agreement. Condition of approval number 2, prior to releasing the final plat, as-built surveys and certifications will be required for detention ponds, public storm infrastructure, and cut fill on lots. Condition of approval number 3, approval of the final plat shall be valid for filing for 1 year from the date of Planning Commission approval. Any modification to the approved plat shall be submitted to the city for review and may result in Planning Commission reconsideration. It's the end of the staff report and the conditions of approval.
Thank you. If you want to come back up, I have a feeling Commissioner Magner's got a question for you.
Thank you. If I may, and do we have the landscape plan available that might be able to answer the question? And then but from what I saw in the submission, I did not see a landscape buffer. According to section 10-206.2, 10-207.6, either of those sections would apply. And if that's the case, then I would move to amend the current approval, just that such landscape buffers be provided per the zoning.
We'll verify if there is one previously
Okay, thank you.
approved. We'll verify that, and if not, we will ensure that there's one included.
Sounds good. And I'll just add, there's already a couple retention ponds on site, which is fine. This one's just up along Cumberland, so it's right along a public right-of-way. So if it falls into disrepair, it'll be pretty sightly for all of our other neighbors. So, thank you.
Point of order, do we, since we're not 100% sure on whether or not that's included at the moment, should we make the amendment to the motion and include it just in case?
Yes, if that's intent of the board, I'd recommend amending the motion to add a condition of approval that it meets the landscaping requirements or in accordance with zoning regulations. And then those will either be verified in the construction plan or added to it. So just amend with the condition of approval that landscaping meets the requirements from the zoning regulation. Then you would vote on the amendment, and then you would vote on the question.
I second the amendment.
Magner Johnson on the amendment to the motion. Is there any discussion on the amendment? You may, yeah.
You probably don't know this, but how many kids do you think are in your neighborhood?
I would have to.
Well, the reason that I'm asking is probably not necessarily your problem, but I live on Cumberland Road, and I'm assuming that the high school, middle school doesn't get bused, and they walk down that road, and you keep adding kids on, and that road is really, really thin, and there's no sidewalk for the kids. So I just wanted to bring that to somebody's attention, because it really makes me nervous, because it's also high school kids. If they put their head down for a second, they can hit one of those kids coming down the road.
Yeah, we will vote on the motion that's on the table, and then we can go back to discussion.
sorry.
I thought you were asking a question on the process of the vote.
Oh, sorry.
My apologies. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Callie,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Ms. Senyard,
Aye.
Ms. Schilling, Mr. McDonald,
Aye. Passes 9-0 to amend the current motion to include the amendment that Mr. Magner had mentioned. All right, just back to discussion. Feel free.
Regarding the question about the sidewalk, based on the master plan that was approved for the entire PUD development before we got involved, they were required to widen the portion of Cumberland Drive in front of them, which included curb and gutter and sidewalk. Maybe it just hasn't been installed yet. Sometimes sidewalks are waited till homes or they come in after all the construction to build it so it doesn't get damaged and then have to be replaced after the fact. But it is on the approved construction plans, sidewalk along the entire frontage of Cumberland Drive for the development.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Ms. Jones, if you will call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Callie,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Ms. Senyard,
Aye.
Ms. Schilling, Mr. McDonald,
Aye. PC Resolution 2623 passes 9-0. Moving on to item number 3, PC Resolution PC 27-23, Site Development Plan Fairview Animal Clinic Addition, Map 023, Parcel 043.00, Current Zoning, CG Commercial General, Property Owner, E&J Holdings, LLC. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Schulist Williams. And staff, if you have any comments at this time?
We'll read the staff report into the record here. Staff report for Resolution PC 27-23, Fairview Animal Clinic Building Addition, Site Development Plan, applicant is CSDG, initially submitted on 5/27/2023. Final submittal date was 6/16/2023, located on tax map 23, parcel 43.00. CSD has submitted to the City of Fairview a request for site development plan approval of the Fairview Animal Clinic addition. Project is located on tax map 23, parcel 43.00, is located at 1597 Fairview Boulevard. The property is 1 acre in size and is zoned CG, Commercial General. Letter of intent is stated as, quote, "The purpose of this project is to expand the existing animal clinic facility by approximately 1,610 square feet and to rework portions of the existing parking lot," end quote. The project property has been reviewed by staff and meets the base zoning bulk and area requirements of the CG zoning bulk regulations. The applicant is proposing a building addition of 1,610 square feet to the existing Fairview Animal Clinic. The material composition for all sides is listed below in compliance with the design review manual requirements. Southwest elevation, 80% brick, 2% fenestration, 9% doors, 9% wood. Southeast elevation, 89% brick, 3% fenestration, 8% wood. Northwest elevation, 72% brick, 26% fenestration, 2% wood. Northeast elevation, 75% brick, 8% fenestration, 12% doors, and 5% wood. The setback and development buffers are as follows. Front, side, rear is 30 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet, respectively. Fairview Animal Clinic addition is proposing ingress, egress to the project by means of 2 existing entrances off of Highway 100. The applicant has requested to pay an in lieu fee for the City of Fairview Sidewalk Fund due to lack of sidewalk connectivity in the area. This sidewalk variance is listed as a condition of approval. This use requires 1 space for 300 square feet, which equals 13 required standard spaces and 2 accessible spaces. Fairview Animal Clinic addition is providing a total of 12 parking spaces and 2 accessible spaces. 17 parking spaces, 2 accessible spaces. The applicant is adding 6,412 square feet of impervious surface and removing 1,521 square feet of impervious surface. This equals a net gain of 4,891 square feet of impervious surface added. As the proposed project adds less than 5,000 square feet, it will not require water quality or detention in conformance with the City of Fairview Stormwater Ordinance. The applicant provided a landscaping plan that meets all requirements. The applicant is proposing streetscape landscaping along Highway 100. All surrounding property parcels are CG zoning, therefore there is no perimeter landscaping required. Plan sheets have been provided showing the location, dimension, and design of all entrances, parking, access, and other pertinent surface items, and meet the requirements of each item. Conditions of approval included in Planning Commission Resolution PC 27-23 for Fairview Animal Clinic addition are as follows. Number 1, all remaining staff comments to be addressed and approved by staff prior to pre-construction meeting. Approval of variance pursuant to City of Fairview Zoning Ordinance 8-103.7 sidewalk requirement for sidewalk along SR 100. Applicant to pay fee in lieu of sidewalk prior to pre-construction meeting. 3, plan set to be approved by all utility providers prior to pre-construction meeting. Number 4, provide documentation of all applicable state and federal permits prior to pre-construction meeting. Number 5, approval of site development plan shall be valid for 3 years from the date of Planning Commission approval. Any modification to the approved plans shall be submitted to the city for review and may result in Planning Commission reconsideration. And that's the end of the staff report.
Thank you, sir. There's anybody from the applicant present that would like to come up and, if there's anything you would like to add, feel free. Otherwise, we can open it up for discussion.
Yeah, good evening, Joe Haddock, CSDG. We're in agreement with all staff comments and conditions, and I can happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Thank you. We will open it up to questions from the board.
Plan northeast in the proposed parking lot area. There is an Middle Tennessee Electric easement that runs through there. How does that affect the parking lot? Is it underground?
It's overhead at that
Overhead?
point. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so that answers my question.
I'll just disclose that my pets do go to Fairview Animal Clinic, but I don't think it affects my decision on the vote tonight. Not very controversial here.
You have a dumpster? It's not required, but if you do have a dumpster, there has some requirements along with it.
I can ask. They currently do not have
Okay.
one. I think it's just roll-off cans.
Okay, which is fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Staff, how much is what is the amount of the in lieu of fee?
I am unaware what that fee is. All of these reports were created by previous staff member, and we've been provided these for the meeting tonight, so I'm unaware of what that total value is. We can find that out, but I'm unaware of that at this point in time.
Previously, they were using some TDEC numbers. They have it set basically so the city can eventually do it. But I would suggest on this one, even though this morning when I was there was someone walking on the other side, that you've got a drainage ditch, that it'd be very hard to connect there. And so the city would need to do some infrastructure to help make sidewalks viable there.
So the amount we would be collecting would be how much it would cost to do the project today? Or is
Yeah.
there anticipation for years to come?
I want to say it's like 75%. I can't remember, but it's that TDEC kind of has a suggested amount, and we've used it. We've talked among this board sometimes about so many people want to do it, maybe it should be more.
I think it's
That's
like
correct,
2
Commissioner. I think it's 8 TAC 103.7 from the zoning code specifies the valuation of funds remitted to the city, not less than 75% of the engineered cost as determined by the current published average unit prices. So that'll be a calculation staff has to make once they get those costs.
And you said you agree with everything, so you do agree with that?
Yeah, we agree with payment in lieu of,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any further question?
Can staff remind us, and y'all may not know, one of the discussions about sidewalks has had to do with Highway 100 getting widened and then sidewalks being in a projection past that, but not wanting to like put them in and then basically dig them up the next year. Is that section getting widened there? Or is that too far down?
We're not aware of exactly where those are going to go. I know specifically there is a project going on for the intersection of Cumberland and Highway 100, but I don't know how far it will extend from there. So I'm unaware of that. That would be a TDOT project as well, not so.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Butler?
The widening of Highway 100, I think, is a ways out. It is a project on TDOT's radar, but I think as a long-term, I think the payment in lieu of is not just for the site. So if they pay this fee in regards to sidewalks, it means maybe sidewalks may not be feasible in this location. They may not connect. They would be the only sidewalks in the area. We can use that payment and apply it for sidewalks anywhere else in public property in the city of Fairview. So, for example, we just had a discussion about Cumberland. Maybe this kind of fee or payment could go towards extending the sidewalks on Cumberland where they are to connect with Cumberland Estates eventually or so. So that would kind of be, it doesn't have to only be used in the future on this site, just for reference.
Any additional questions from the board? Hearing none, Ms. Jones?
Ms. Schulist,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Magner,
Aye.
Mr. Callie,
Aye.
Mr. Butler,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson, Ms. Sinyard,
Aye.
Ms. Schilling, Mr. McDonald,
Aye. PC Resolution 27-23 passes 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. New business item 4, PC Resolution PC 28-23. Forgive me, let me change my page here. Adoption of Planning Commission bylaws. Is
Make-
there a motion?
Make a motion to approve PC 2823.
Is there a second?
Second.
Kylie Schulist. Staff, is there any discussion from you on this?
We've been provided no information on this in terms of a staff report, so
That's
no
fair.
comments from us on this.
I think Mr. Carter had the lead on this, working with consultation with MTAS. So what you've been provided is kind of the best practices across the state with regards to how planning commissions are structured and how they operate business. So big takeaway is this is MTAS's recommendation, which Mr. Carter and our office has reviewed and agreed that it's a good business practice, and we recommend approval.
Open it up to discussion from the board, if any.
So as the current acting secretary, I assume that means I will no longer have the title secretary with these new bylaws.
That's correct. The way the new bylaws are set up, the secretary is ex officio member, they're non-voting. Most municipalities have it that way, so the appointed planning commission members can focus on the actual voting items that are in front of them and let city staff, whether it's the city recorder or somebody from the city staff from the planning department, handle the administrative work for the board. So that's the intent.
Got it.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hogan, just a question. Currently, and I couldn't cite the ordinance or the resolution, but a final plat is signed by the chairman and the secretary. And so would that secretary now be signed by our staff that's considered the secretary? Or do we need to amend or revise that? Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense, and I don't think you need to amend that. The secretary, even
Would
though
now
they're
be the-
a not voting member, they're still
Okay, perfect.
appointed by the board for that purpose, so.
Okay, perfect.
Any additional questions?
Is there anything in here that's
No, Commissioner, there's not. There was a question about that previously and with discussion with Mr. Carter. At the end of the day, the members of this board sit at the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners, so the Board of Commissioners has the ultimate authority on removing someone or appointing someone. Even if someone were removed by some procedure in the bylaws, the Board of Commissioners could technically appoint them right back if they wanted. So after game playing a couple of different scenarios, the recommendation was just to leave it out with the knowledge that the Board of Commissioners can always take action if they need to. Yes, sir.
Anything else? Anyone? Hearing none. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Callie?
Aye.
Ms. Schulist?
Aye.
Ms. Schilling? Ms. Sinyard?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Butler?
Aye.
Mr. Magner?
Aye.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye. PC Resolution 28-23 passes 9-0. We will move to new business item number 5, public hearing for the urban growth boundary. And with that, we just open the public hearing, correct? So we will call this public hearing open. Is there anybody who would like to make comment? I guess, I'm sorry, my apologies. I did want to, just so everyone's on the same page, I know urban growth boundary things can get a little confusing on terminology, so I wanted to read just the definition so everybody's kind of on the same page with that. Urban growth boundary is a regional boundary set in an attempt to control urban sprawl by, in its simplest form, mandating that an area inside the boundary be used for urban development and the area outside be preserved for its natural state or used for agriculture. And the reason I believe that we are having this, if any members have more information we'd like to share, I believe this was directed from the mayor of the county. I believe all municipalities are having to do this. This is more of an administrative box that's being checked, in my understanding. But by all means, feel free.
Thank you. Meredith Kaiser, 7321 Cox Run Court. As one of the only 2 members of the public who were present when this came before the Board of Commissioners in December 21, I felt obliged to say something because what you're looking at, that was to meet the state requirement, and now it's an administrative requirement for the county. And what you have before you this evening, Commissioner, is consistent with what happened, the action of the board in December of 21. What you sent or prepared to go to the state had a little more grading in it. It was what we would like to be now, what we would like to be. It was staged. And what you have tonight is just, this would be city and this would be the rest of Fairview. But I encourage you to approve this because it's consistent with what Fairview has been doing. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Is there any additional comments that would like to be made? We'll open it up to the board. Mr. Butler, did you have something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
As Ms. Kaiser mentioned, this has been in the works for a little over a year. It initially kicked off by the county engaging. I think they took all of the planning departments, the mayors, they took the largest utility heads for Williamson County, all the key players that would be kind of in the long-term. Williamson County Schools were involved in the growth study and kicking off, and to submit to the state. So every community is going through this process right now to resubmit the urban growth boundary for Williamson County to the state. And the official window is a 6-month timeline. So the from start to finish, it has to have to end in 6 months and be submitted. They just kicked off that official timeline, and so now we are seeing every community revisit their urban growth boundary. We're kind of on the western border alone. We, not directly in line with other municipalities. Some of the Thompson Station, Spring Hills, Franklin's had a little more in-depth discussions about whose future area was going to be. And then in our prior discussions, just some comments, we removed some of the northeast area from the prior urban growth boundary that was, I think it was created somewhere around 2000 or 2001, it's a little over 20 years ago, was the last time this was visited and submitted to the state. There were some northeast areas up there that is a lot of topography driven. There's not road infrastructure, there's not water and sewer infrastructure, and so we focused, they took some of those white areas out where it used to go all the way up to the county lines there. And on the southwest area, as you see kind of in the 848 corridor, it kind of expanded and grew based off of future projections of new road infrastructure or transportation, water, sewer, and how we can grow. And of course, this doesn't change zoning for anyone. This is just a long-term vision or map or guide to kind of guide the city of Fairview if the utilities or infrastructure are replaced, or if a property owner doesn't request annexation, it will never be annexed. It would be by property owner consent. And so this is just a tool that's been created where all the cities have gotten together to create it to submit to the state for the first time in 20 years. So just some background.
What is Dixon Waters, not Dixon, Water Authority of Dixon, what has their response been to our proposed eventual growth over the 840 line?
The Water Authority was involved in the initial discussions, and at the time, because it's taken so long, they were heavily dependent. They thought they would have a future treatment facility in that area. I don't think that is the future plan at this time. And so they were very interested in it. If it got approved, they probably would have approached Fairview for funding to help create it or build it. And so that was kind of a positive approach. I think things have changed now, and those discussions will be had as properties try to come forward. But they're trying to find a new route. To my understanding, they're trying to find a new route to try and reach the Cumberland for water treatment, for increased water treatment.
Yeah. Any additional questions or discussion from the board? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. We will move on to, there'll be another one of those next month, just a heads up. We have to have 2 of them. We'll have this one, and then we will have another one next month.
And Mr. Chairman, they will probably also be at the Board of Commissioners public hearing as well. So it'll have several additional steps if someone wasn't able to make it tonight, or if you want to tell them to come.
Yeah, you'll have other additional opportunities. Moving on to bonds and letters of credit, there are none tonight. We'll go to reports for discussion and information. First going to planning staff.
We are all good.
Good to hear.
Here at the table.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could everybody introduce themselves?
Yeah, if we got some new faces, so maybe we can get some introductions. That would be.
I am Ethan Greer. I am the city planner.
My name is Kevin Chastain. I probably look pretty unfamiliar. I know Brandon from a few years ago. I'm on staff at Griggs & Maloney Engineering, the planner there, the one lone planner amongst all the engineers. So I've come on staff or come here to help in terms of planning, plans review, and also to assist Ethan as the city planner. So that's kind of why I'm here tonight, and we'll be helping out as we move forward and getting Ethan up to speed on everything and reviewing plans as needed, and then assisting Will and Curtis as well, however that may be necessary.
Thank you.
And I'm Curtis Broadbent. Like Kevin said, with Griggs and Maloney, you all know Will Owen. Or maybe some of you know Will Owen. He was here a few years ago, and we're back to, assist the city in any way we can. We're open to questions and excited to be here. So, thank you.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. City manager.
Thank you. I was going to introduce folks, but I also want to congratulate our new planning commissioner member, Ms. Schilling, and also congratulations on the re-ups, Chris and Mr. Callie. But anyway, I'm excited. We've had a little bit of touch and go time in the planning department, but we're starting to get a little traction, and we just appreciate everybody pulling together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney. Anything?
No report. Pending your
No report
questions.
this evening. Thank you. Start down there with you, Commissioner Johnson.
Well, first, I would like to welcome Ms. Schilling to the board. Happy to have her on board and working with us for the next several years. And Chris, you and Mr. Callie, welcome back. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Schilling, this is your opportunity. You can say as little or as much as you would like. The floor is yours.
I'm just excited to be here.
We're happy to have you. Ms. Williams?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. We'll go down to Mr. Magner.
I just want to say thank you to the staff that's stepping in and helping out. This is an important time for the community, and your efforts are appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Butler, sorry.
Welcome, congratulations, Ms. Schilling and Mr. McDonald and Mr. Callie. Welcome back. And thank you, staff. Good to have you, Kevin. Good to see a familiar face, and glad to have you back on board.
Callie?
Thanks to the staff for all the hard work they do, and appreciate being on the board for the next few years. Hope I can serve everybody well.
None for me, except welcome to all the new staff and new board members and old board members. That's all I got.
Thank you. Ms. Sinyard?
Nothing much. I just wanted to see if we had gotten that IDT training and everything on the schedule that we had talked about maybe 2 months ago, maybe?
Planning staff is going to be going through IDT training tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We're going to evaluate that training, and then we will schedule a training for the Planning Commission.
Only mention it because that handoff sometimes rough.
Yeah, happy to have you guys. I think it's exciting to have a full table down there again. It's been a while, it seems like. To echo that, I know you guys are still settling in, fairly new on this journey here at Fairview, or the second tour for some. But yeah, I think that's a big one. I think it would go a long way just to make sure that we're all understanding how to access these plans that we're supposed to be reviewing, because as you know, it can be kind of difficult at times to understand that program. And then something else that, just to plant a seed in your head, there's been discussion of wanting to have a workshop where we just take a hypothetical development from the moment they send their first email or make their first phone call to the city staff, say, hey, we're looking in and doing this in this area, to releasing the bond, right? So we would just like to have that, and then really how that ties into the process that we do here, and when it's appropriate and not appropriate to address different issues that we may feel we have with those developments, right? I think it would just, one, it would streamline our meetings, and I think we would better serve the community if we were just up to speed, had a better grasp on that. Again, I know you got a lot on your plate, no timeline on that, just something to think about. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn, or,